If God is the creator, he must also be self-existent and self-sufficient. In other words, he must exist for himself. Theologians have constantly distinguished between God and all creatures by affirming that although both he and they exist by or in themselves, only God exists for himself. Thus, while a man exists in himself, insofar as he is distinct from other persons and things, he does not exist for himself. He is not self-existent or self-sufficient. He depends for his existence on innumerable, finite factors, and ultimately on God. However, if God is the creator, he must exist for himself. The idea of ascietas is entailed by the idea of creativity. The alternative to saying that God exists solely for the resources interior to his being is to say that he was created by someone, so that the latter and not he would then be the creator. At this point, it must be said that the same thing could be both created and creator. There might be a God who is wholly uncreated, but who chose to create the world through another being whom he created. This view has been continually rejected by Orthodox theologians, who have argued that the New Testament's attribution of a creative function to Christ the Son implies his identity identical with the uncreated Father. The argument is invincible. To be created ex nihilo, to be totally and incessantly dependent on another, excludes the capacity to create ex nihilo. In any case, if God could create through a created intermediary, he alone would be the creator, the ultimate source of all things. Furthermore, from the fact that God is the creator, it is possible to infer that he is necessary and eternal. There are two forms of ontological necessity. There is the relative form by which finite beings exist through the action of causes external to themselves, and there is the absolute form by which God exists through an internal power of his own being. The belief that God exists by the second form of necessity is entailed by belief in his self-existence. The test of the entailment is this: if the person we call God and worship as such does not exist by a necessity of his own being, he might not have existed. But if he might not have existed, he might have been produced by a higher being, who would then be the creator and the one who is worthy of adoration. Hence, unless the person we call God exists necessarily, we cannot know that he is the creator of all things. This conclusion, supported by the cosmological argument that, according to Aquinas' third way, terminates in the postulation of God as the necessary ground of contingent being. And if God exists necessarily, he must be eternal, at least insofar as he is without beginning or end.